Hey there. Yeah. Um. I'm really scared right now. But anyways, so what up? Velocity here. So today we are doing something really different. It is around Christmas time, as you see. We got the lights and everything. We got the Santa. I don't know if you can really see him. He looks kind of scary, not gonna lie. And I'm scared myself today, cause not only are we in the freaking dark, but we're watching or reacting to Christmas horror stories. But anyways, so let's go on to our first creepy video we are watching for today. Whew. Yeah guys, you see this? I'm doing this all for you because I love you. But anyways, so we're gonna start off with Christmas 1996, Scary Story Animated. And this is by Nightmare Tales. And just know that I'm not copying anything, just reacting to it, okay? And without further ado, let's react to this. Okay, let's go.
I was up early. I bounced out of bed and made my way down the hall towards our living room at the front of the house. I slowly peered in to see if Santa had bothered to pay us a visit. With all that had been going on over the past few weeks, I was certain that he wouldn't.
Okay.
However, a euphoric sense of excitement and happiness washed over me as I took in the gorgeous Christmas tree and all of its glistening bounty below. I called out to my mother, "He came! He came! Can we open them?
I always
Mom,
have that same
wake up!"
excitement every Christmas,
A
no
murmur,
matter how old I am.
followed by the crash of a lamp falling off a bedside table, was shortly followed by the shuffling of slippered feet along our old, hardwood floor. Hunched over, she entered the living room along with the stench of whiskey and cigarettes from the night before.
Dang.
My dad had up and left her for another woman not long ago, and for her to be up this early was nothing short of a Christmas miracle. She had slumped into a deep depression, brought on by the shock of my dad's sudden departure,
Poor
and then
mom.
compounded by the loneliness, worthlessness, and guilt she must have been feeling from neglecting me. Looking back now, that time of my life had really helped me become more independent. It made me
Okay.
stronger.
I can
I
see
had to
that.
feed myself, bathe myself, and take myself off to school. Hell, no one else was going to do it for me. It was horrible to see her this way. However, the 7-year-old me couldn't contain my excitement, and I badgered her relentlessly by asking, "Can I open them? Can I? Can I?" She was able to get the words out through the pain of her splitting headache. "Yes, yes, hurry up," she said. "Open them." "Great," I shouted, and began to tear into the wrapping paper like a rabid dog tearing into the flesh of its freshly
Sorry,
caught
guys.
prey. A Nintendo 64,
Ooh.
Game Boy Pocket.
Oh, he's got the Lego set, the Nintendo 64. That looks really cool. And then you got Goosebumps. Oh, that used to be my favorite book series, man, when I was growing up as a kid. Always found them kind of creepy for some reason. But those books were really good. I can't even lie. So was the episodes. The episodes were really cool.
This Lego, I had really hit the jackpot. I was so happy. I looked up at my mum and said, "Thanks, Mum. I love you." "Don't thank me," she said. "Thanks, Santa." I smiled.
That's true.
"Thanks, Santa." She smiled back. Then, without thinking, I said, "I wish Dad could be here." I shouldn't have said it, but I was all too caught up in the moment. My mother's face turned, her icy stare filling me with regret for having ruined the good mood. Damn, why did I have to say that? The awful and
No.
awkward silence
You-
was broken when she
oh,
said in a
shoot.
cold, crackled whisper, "There's one more there. Aren't you going to open it?" I smiled an uncomfortable smile back at her. "Yes, of course," I replied, trying
You
so
better be
hard
careful
to
with
get
your
that
mom,
warm,
buddy.
excited feeling back that had filled the room just minutes ago. I dragged over the last box. It was heavy. I didn't tear into it like the previous few. I didn't have the same enthusiasm. Plus, I wanted to savor the moment. Who knows when I would be getting presents like this again? My mother stared intently at me as I peeled away the wrapping, opened the cardboard box, and
The
peered at the contents within. I froze. I can still see the image so clearly in my mind to this day. And to this day, nothing has made me feel more sick to my stomach, more
What is
shattered,
it?
more incredibly disappointed and devastated. "What is it, Ryan?" she probed. "What's wrong? Isn't it what you wanted?"
Sorry, guys.
My father's head lifelessly stared at me, and I
Oh,
stared
what?
back into his eyes, his dead eyes. "It's exactly what I wanted," I replied,
What?
sobbing as I did so. "Good. Now dry your eyes," my mother croaked. "I want you to meet someone."
What?
Out of the shadows, a huge figure came into the room and put his hand on her shoulder.
Santa?
"This is Chris. He's going to be staying
What?
with us for a while.
Chris.
Now don't be rude. Say hello." I've never felt more alone and helpless than I did right at that moment. All I could do was say, "Hello."
Guys, we're only one. One animation in. I'm freaking scared. I'm in pitch black, as you see, and I'm watching these, and I don't even know what's behind me, man. Gosh. Alright, let's just move on to the next animation. This one is by Lama Arts, and it is called A Christmas Eve Horror Story Animated. Okay, alright, let's see how this is.
Last year on Christmas Eve, I was working late. I'm 23. I work in New York City and commute home every day on the train. Since I'm one of the younger ones in the office, I got stuck with one of the worst shifts.
Hey, it's my
so
guy,
I
Mr.
wasn't able to get
Nightmare.
home until 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
My family had already left a whole hour earlier to go to my cousin's house, so I had to drive alone. After having a quick snack before the half-hour drive, I got back in my car and put my cousin's address into my phone. Halfway through the drive, it started snowing.
Okay.
I got to my cousin's house around 6 o'clock. It was snowing heavily by this point, and I just made it in time to catch everyone starting dinner. I brought all of my gifts inside and cheerfully said hey to everyone. I stayed until around 11 o'clock. The rest of my family left a little sooner. I stayed an extra half hour or so just to hang out before leaving myself. By the time I was leaving, the ground had accumulated at least 2 feet of snow, and it wasn't even done snowing. The drive home was nightmarish. The roads were hardly even plowed, and I had to drive under 20 miles per hour on most roads. The roads were completely dead at this point though, most likely because everyone was smart enough to go home before the snow accumulated. Eventually I turned onto a main road that I'm sure would usually be bustling, but at 11:15 on Christmas Eve night, there wasn't a single car or a single light from the store. It was a ghost town. But then I did notice the flashing taillights of one car. It was parked on the side of the road, and the smoke seeping out from its exhaust with the taillights giving it a red tint. As I got closer, I realized there was somebody next to the car waving their hand in the air.
Probably someone that
I
needs help.
assumed something was wrong and they needed help. So, me being the good Samaritan I am, I pulled up behind the car. When I opened my door, the guy approached me immediately, barely even giving me time to step out. He was an average-sized man, probably 5'10".
Bro, this man
180
looked like
pounds.
Santa.
He spoke in a very demanding voice, asking me if I know anything about fixing an engine.
I mean,
told him I
I'd be
didn't know
pretty
much about
desperate to
cars.
get my car fixed.
The guy
wanna
responded very
get out.
quickly to everything I said.
Plus,
He
it's
told me it's
freezing out
fine.
there.
He went inside of his car for a second, popped open his trunk, came back out, and told me to just wait by the trunk for a
Careful.
second. I had no idea what he wanted me to do. I was really confused. He walked over to the front of his car, and I heard him open the hood. I couldn't see anything he was doing since the trunk was blocking my view, and the loud wind of the snowstorm overpowered any small noises he might have been making. I put my hand on the back of the car and leaned my body in anticipation, when suddenly I heard 3 or 4 quick and aggressive footsteps in the snow behind me before I was pushed into the trunk. The man tried to close the trunk on me, but I kicked my feet up in resistance and held it up.
His car
I was
ain't
able
broken.
to overpower him and kick the trunk open.
Alright, I am back. And so my iPad died, and I have my iPad plugged in into one of the wires that is connected to the lamp, so I have to keep it on right now, or else my iPad is gonna die. But anyways, let's get back into the animation.
Completely. As I took advantage of the few seconds
And also
I had
because
to
I'm
get out of
scared.
the trunk,
That's
I
another
took
reason
out
why
my
I'm keeping the
keys.
light on.
He tried to grab me now, and I dug my house key right into his neck. He fell to his knees and his feet went down the deserted street. I was in my car and halfway down the road before he could even get up from his knees.
Yeah.
A little further down, I called 911 and reported the guy. I came back in 10 minutes to find blue and red lights illuminating the windows of the deserted stores. The police held him until the ambulance arrived for him. I watched the whole thing, and nothing ever felt better in my life. I got home safely half an hour later and told my family everything. I was still very shaken that Christmas, and this remains possibly the most horrific thing I've ever experienced.
I would be too. That man looked like real Santa Claus. Damn, that was actually pretty short. Alright, next animation. Okay, so this next one is called A Creepy Christmas Time Story Animated by Lama Arts again. Make sure to go subscribe to these guys. They're very special and very skilled with their animations, and I really like them as well. And go subscribe to Mr. Nightmare as well. He has a very good channel and very great fan base. But without further ado, let's watch this animation. Alright, creepy Christmas time story.
It was November of 2006. I was a 16-year-old kid living in the town of Altoona, Iowa. I went to bed early one night because I had to work the early shift at McDonald's. As I slept, I had a dream that I was running through downtown Des Moines, but I wasn't on a jog. I was running from something. As I ran around the corner of a building, I came face to face with my pursuer. A tall man wearing a trench coat and a top hat stood in front of me. The only thing visible of his face was his eyes. They were abnormally large with black pupils, and it looked at me as if it wanted something.
Okay, that's
After what
really
felt like
creepy.
hours, he reached out his bony hand, as if he wanted me to go with him. I woke up violently from my dream, and after
Y'all know the Babadook? That's freaking horrifying. That's what just gave me a reference right there. The Babadook, bro. Holy crap, that's scary, man.
catching my breath, I peered around my room to see if I was safe.
Large eyes with
As I stood up from my bed, I noticed that I could see my breath.
That's scary.
Feeling confused, I checked my window. It was latched shut. I then walked over and checked my vent. I could still feel warm air coming from it. As I sat back down on my bed, I tried to figure out what exactly was going on. That's when the figure from my dream appeared at the foot of my bed. I scrambled back to my headboard.
What do you want?
I asked, trying to hide the shakiness in my voice. With the same bony finger, it pointed at me. Growing up in a religious home, I believed what I was looking at was a demon. I told the creature to leave. It just waved its finger at me, and with a low voice, it spoke to me.
Never leave. Always here.
The creature then screamed loudly and disappeared. A feeling of nausea came over me, and I vomited on my floor. The last thing I remember was cleaning myself up and waking up to my alarm.
My God.
It's been about a month since I had seen the
horrifying.
top hat wearing man in my bedroom.
I
The
couldn't. I
Christmas
wouldn't
season
sleep
was in
that
full
night.
effect. My parents weren't home because they got invited to some kind of event, so it was only me and my 3 sisters at home. I had to wake up early in the morning for work, so I decided to go to sleep.
Sisters?
I rested my head on my pillow and closed my eyes. Not even 30 seconds passed until my sisters burst into my room and started singing obnoxious songs.
Oh my gosh.
This of course made me very angry, but I thought if I ignored them that they would leave me alone. This was not the case. As I pulled the blankets over my head, I started to feel the same cold feeling that I had in November.
Oh,
As the
gosh.
obnoxious singing subsided, I lowered the blanket below my eyes and saw the man standing in the corner of my room.
Oh, freak.
In one swift motion, he charged towards me, and I blacked out. When I finally came to, I found that my sisters had locked themselves inside the bathroom.
My gosh, what the heck?
As I knocked on the door, they told me to go away. I asked them what happened, and all they could say was Mom and Dad were on their way home.
What?
I looked down and saw that my hand was slightly
Hand's
bloody.
bleeding.
Holes were in the bathroom door, and a broom was sticking out of the wall.
What?
I then walked into the living room and found that there were knives stuck into the wall as well.
Oh my
The same wave
God.
of nausea passed over me, just like in November, and I threw up again. As I was cleaning up, my parents walked through the door. My father immediately walked over to me and gave me a good beating. Then he sent me to my room.
Oh my gosh.
I went to bed crying.
Didn't do anything.
Not for the beating. I was crying because of the confusion. I had no idea what was going on. The next morning, my sisters reluctantly sat next to me and told me what had happened. They said I got angry and chased them down and tried to hurt them.
Oh.
They
freak.
said my eyes were red to the point where they thought I was bleeding from them.
Oh.
They
freak.
said I sounded like a different person. In 2011,
That's
that was the
freaking
last
scary.
time I saw the top hat wearing man.
Oh, finally.
I just moved into a new apartment,
That guy was
and after a
creepy.
long, stressful day of unpacking, I took a shower and got ready for bed. As I started to drift off, I could feel that cold feeling
Oh,
again.
No.
I lifted my head and saw the man standing in front of me.
Again.
The man's eyes were red now. With a low voice, just like on that November night, it looked at me and said,
Never leave. Always here.
Bro. That one was freaking freaky. The only reason why I thought that was the scariest one is because it reminded me of the freaking Duke, man. And that thing freaking horrified me, man. My gosh. Alright, so this last story is a Christmas horror story anime. So it's by Lama Arts again. Clap it up. And let's watch this. Only 2 minutes long actually. Alright. Christmas horror story.
This story took
anime.
place about 5 years ago on Christmas Eve night.
Ooh, Mr.
It
Nightmare.
was around 1 in the morning, and I had just finished placing presents under the tree. I went upstairs to brush up and everything, then came back downstairs to the kitchen to get a glass of water before bed. My son Jake, who was 4 at the time, was standing by the stairs leading to the basement. I asked him what he was doing up
Alright,
so
that's
late.
a little freaky.
He pointed down the stairs and said, "Santa." I picked him up and carried him back to his room. I took a glass of water and went to bed.
Okay, that's red flag number 1.
I
Okay?
woke up around an hour later to my son running down the hall outside my room. I sighed and got out of bed. As I was going down the stairs, I saw Jake by the tree looking at presents. Then he ran past me into the basement stairs again. He pointed down the
I
stairs
mean,
again.
I'd be pretty excited.
This time I
too,
looked
I
down the
can't even lie.
stairwell, and my heart dropped as I saw a black figure sitting on the bottom step. I almost screamed, but I somehow held it in. I pulled my son
Oh,
quietly away
freak.
from the basement door and closer to the front door of the house. I moved my hand away from my son's mouth to reach for the lock in the doorknob. I tried to pull the door open as quietly as possible, but it was pointless. The squeaky hinges let out the usual ear-piercing screeches, and I cringed in my mouth and eyes as I
Just
did.
pull it!
Suddenly, there were heavy stomps coming from up the basement stairs.
Bro,
I
you need to
screamed
go
and pushed
now.
open the storm door and practically threw Jake outside. I shut both doors behind us and we ran to the neighbor's house. I rang the doorbell
okay.
as fast as possible, probably 30 times before they answered. After that, we went inside and stayed there and waited for the police. Whoever that person was gone though, as determined after the police conducted a thorough investigation of the house. I ended up lying to Jake, telling him that actually was Santa Claus. But a few years later, he remembered the incident and became a little more wise to what actually happened.
Thank you, Jake. Or whatever his freaking name was. Dang, man. These are actually all really freaky, man. Clap that up for Lama Arts and all those other special animators. Oh, shout out to those guys, man. I was really scared. Oh, but anyways, guys, I'm gonna end it there. Actually, pretty good. Pretty horrifying too. I'm not even gonna lie. But if you guys want me to do more stuff like this in the month of December, let me know. I'd love to. Maybe with some friends too as well, to keep me more company when I'm getting scared. And yeah, without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.